Welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week we will discuss tools, tips, and ways to radiate your best life ever, interviewing practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate? Hi, welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. We are here to radiate self-care with Kristin Roulon, who's developing this really awesome app called MindStar, and it helps reward us for taking care of ourselves. Sometimes we put ourselves last, right? And so we're going to be talking about why self-care is important, what it might look like, and how we can all interact with self-care. I think it's super, super important. Thank you, Kristin, for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. So you've had this idea for an app. You've been working on it for quite some time, haven't you?
Yeah, I had the idea about 18 months ago.
Wow.
And but these things take time, especially if you want to make something that works, that's good. You have to put it out there and have beta testers and then get their feedback. And so, anything that we think is a success, like an overnight success, is really something that's not. It's not. It's been a 5 to 10 year, and as far as studying self-care and mental health, I'm hitting that 5-year mark, and I'm, almost 2 years into my company, so I'm thinking, all right, I'm just right on track. I call it that slow burn.
Yeah.
Instead of that, just kind of that, firecracker, and here it is, and then it's gone, you never see it again. And I want to build something that has that good slow burn so it builds, and people might think it's overnight, but really this is how you really make a difference and really impact, I feel like.
Right. And have you done anything like this before?
No. So my background is journalism.
Right.
Which finds people interesting. But you know what? I have found that you can use your background. It doesn't really matter your background. There's going to be different skill sets you can pull from that to go into a different direction. So for instance, because of my journalism degree, I can do interviews like this. I'm comfortable with things like this, though I'm on the other side, though I feel completely comfortable. The research part of it, getting information, taking it, and then processing it in a way, let's say it used to be an 8th grade reading level, but now the reading level is 6th grade.
Oh, my.
I know. That's a whole different subject.
That's another, yeah.
So, but taking information, not really watering down, but just kind of breaking it down in a way that's understandable and relatable. Being able to, be my own PR person and do the social media, and, as far as the interview skills, that comes in handy when it comes to kind of, getting my point across. So there's a lot of different things, the communication, the writing, all of that actually has come in handy for MindStar. And I just kind of learned, if we're doing this with an app, I knew nothing about building an app. I had the idea. So I had the idea, and my oldest had handed me a worksheet with a star on it, and I just thought, where's my star for being an adult? Like, I said it out loud, and I actually called my husband, and we were talking. I actually said it to him because he remembers that. He said, I'm pretty sure you told me that. But then I get this View subscription in the mail, and then I just, like, the pink packaging just hit me, and I thought, couldn't businesses do more to reward us in our journey? We're all on this personal development journey. Now, we're all on the scale. We're all on different, how big the scale is. We're all different levels. Some people are just becoming aware. Some people are not aware. Some people are too aware. Sometimes I feel like I know too much. But we're all there, but we all need to be rewarded. We are a reward-based society. We get that ping or that ding.
Right.
We have a new notification. We missed something, and we have to look. So why not tap into that for something that's actually positive? Not that social media isn't always positive. There's pros and cons.
Right.
But, you don't know what you're going to get. If you're going to get that comment or, because we all want to put good things out there, but that doesn't mean that other people are going to receive it that way. So I really wanted to kind of tap into that for something positive. And so, this whole thing has been because of my mental health journey. So as a journalist, before I even I I never planned to own a business. I never planned to do an app or, you know, anything like this. I was just, I'm going to write some books, have my kids, my husband, have some money to travel sometimes, and that was going to be my life. I was the type of person I wasn't wanted to be on camera. I didn't really want to be, I was a journalist, but I wanted to be on the other side. And so what happened was I basically, the person I was essentially died in a way, essentially burnt down through the postpartum depression and anxiety, because I was completely just unaware, never really experienced it. I experienced anxiety, but this is before people started saying it, really identifying. Right. So this was like 2000s.
And this was postpartum depression.
Yeah, postpartum depression. So what happened was I had my third child, I had my daughter, and I went in for my regular checkup, as you do. They said, you know, would you like some birth control? And I thought, yes, my husband's going to have a vasectomy, but yes, we want to be covered until we can get that procedure scheduled. I thought, I'll just do the shot. No big deal. They said 2% chance it could give you severe PPD. I thought 2% chance. That's a small chance.
That's the coronavirus chance. Mortality.
Right. So I was like, okay, let's do this. A week later, I was looking for looking for her Social Security card for insurance.
Sure.
Just came in, and I knew I saw it, and I started calling myself names and things that I never, words I don't even use out loud. I mean, they're not on my vernacular. And so I knew something was up. Thankfully, I had the emotional intelligence, then the kind of red flag, like, this is not normal. This is not Kristin. So I went to the doctor, and they just said, oh, yeah, we warned you about this. Here's some pills. It could take up to 2 years for your body to re-regulate itself. It just depends how well your body absorbed or those hormones. I think there's a lot of progesterone in that. It depends how much your body absorbed it and then how much it releases it. And so it was about 18 months. For the first year, I did a lot of natural things. I was very scared of antidepressants, and that was just my anxiety talking. I was just, because, the little disclaimer, it could give you, suicidal thoughts. So I was like, oh no, I'm just going to combat this. Not thinking that this is a literal chemical imbalance, and I might have to do bigger guns than just
St. John's wort or something.
Right. Yeah, and just working out and eating healthy. And so this is what's really sad about the suicide rates and things in the news. We see that we're eating healthy and working out isn't enough. Yeah. It's the emotional and mental self-care, which I'll go into that and the components, how I break it down here in a little while. But, so yeah, I mean, when she was a year old, I kind of had just a big anxiety attack on a vacation, and I thought, okay, I'm going to survive this, but who am I going to be after this? Am I going to be the shell of a person? Like, who am I anymore? I don't identify with anything going on in my head. Wow. And so, besides the fact that I knew that I loved my children, but I was just I was terrified of myself. I had to learn to trust myself, that I'm not my thoughts, that this is just... I tell people, I literally been to hell and back is what I tell people. Right. And so, which is probably why I'm so fearless with MindStart, because when you go through something like that...
Right. You're like,
whatever,
throw it at me.
Bring it,
Exactly.
Like, if I can
handle it.
If I can tame this, whatever took over, and get that under control. So from there, I started researching the mind. I decided, you have this researcher's brain, use it.
Right. You have the tools. You know how to do that.
Yeah. So I started reading about 4 or 5 books a month. Anytime I had a negative thought, which was a lot, I didn't watch TV. I just read books from the mind of different aspects, spiritual, psychological. Right. I even read books that probably I realized people that were going through school for psychology or probably for some sort of neurologist, like first years.
Why not?
I was probably reading because I was reading about, the amygdala and neurotransmitters and how the brain,
brain
all
chemistry,
right.
makeup.
I was, and
right.
I was so fascinated, with it, and. But it really helped me to kind of re-filter my brain with all this information and these positive things and all these different tools out there. And I did get on medication, and I did start going to therapy. So I was just I just went full force.
You threw everything at it.
I did, because I was all like, this is my life. This is who I want to be, and I don't want to be who I am right now, and I know I can get past this, but who am I going to be after this? Am I going to be this person that walks around with kind of this, bitterness on their shoulder?
Right.
That I got gypped or whatever. Okay, no, and I am a spiritual person, so I'm like, no, there was a reason. Part of it was, I believe, to remind myself of my strength, of
Sure.
our resiliency as humans, that sometimes we forget how resilient we are. But yeah, so then doing all this personal work, I started blogging about my anxiety, which was really cathartic, but I had no intention of starting a business, and then this idea came to me, and at first I said, I can't build an app, but I kept talking to people about it, I kept journaling about it, like I became obsessed with it. And then I did, on Instagram, I did a post about it, and a company found me with the hashtag app idea. I know, it's a Cinderella story. Instead of like, I got a business. I got someone so willing to work with me. Now, I did price some people here. I was like, I'm going to, do some logic and make sure these people are legitimate. And for our price point, because we are bootstrapped, it made sense to at least build the MVP, which is just the nuts and bolts. It's just the basic product. There are some things we could afford, but there's a lot of frills as far as like a messaging system and things like that we want to add later in the app. So I did. We talked, and I flew to California to meet them, make sure they were legitimate, make sure I'm legitimate. And so we ended up just kind of working together these past 18 months to kind of make it happen. Excuse me, I'm going to cough here. And so it was one of those things where I just took this big leap, and I thought, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it.
Right.
And now I tell people, if you want to work on your limiting beliefs, start a business.
Right.
Because I'm going to cough again. Excuse me. And so it became just, putting myself out there more and more, just kind of dipping my toe. I'll apply for this, apply for that. And what I have found, though, is that the more that I share my story, that's why I said earlier, vulnerability is the superpower.
Vulnerability is a superpower.
It is, very much so. And so it's one of those things where the more that I do this, the more I realize this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
Like, it just makes sense. Like, I could come in here early in the morning and do this and talk about it, and I'm energized, I'm ready to go. I've had a little coffee, but not a lot. And so it's all like, okay, if I can get up early and talk about this, or I can stay up late and still be talking about this 18 months later, this is definitely something that I'm supposed to be doing, and the app is just the beginning. And so I'm sure people are probably wondering what actually the app is.
Right.
So the app is a self-care rewards app. It
Yeah, because we have rewards apps for Starbucks, for our favorite restaurants, for, going to movies.
Right. Right.
So tell me a bit about how the app actually works for rewards.
Okay, so you build a self-care routine in the app. We have curated suggestions, okay?
Nice.
So you can add your own items, because everyone's self-care is different.
Right.
And so what you do is that you pick what you want, and you add your own things. Every day you double tap, check in, boom, I did this for myself. You earn so many points for each task that you've done for yourself. When you reach so many points, you unlock a reward. Now, we're partnering with small businesses. Now, yes, I would love if Amazon called or Target called, but the idea is I really like the idea of helping small businesses. So
Well, Radiate Wellness has signed up to do that too.
Yeah. So they offer essentially a coupon or a free item. It's their business, whatever they're comfortable with putting on the app. So essentially they do that. So they give me a coupon, and so you can get a free or discounted product, service, or experience. So that could be, maybe it's a half off on a painting class. Maybe it is, maybe your first session is, 25% off, maybe with a life coach, to restaurants, to gyms.
Yeah.
The idea, I thought about that when it comes to the incentives. Well, it's great to get a coupon. I really also wanted to get something that got people out of the house and trying new things.
Oh my gosh, that's so important.
Right, because I have found that, first of all, fear, if we let it, fear can run our lives. I mean, It really can. If we, what we think about, just kind of magnifies. So if we are thinking about, or if we identify someone, well, I've always wanted to paint, but I'm not a painter. Oh, I've always wanted to try that, but I'm not a painter. It's like we have to put these labels on ourselves. This is why I say I'm an all-around creative. People ask what I do, and I'm like, I do a little bit of everything. I don't identify really with one thing anymore. I'm just a creative.
Right, I love that.
Because I just kind of want to keep that open and honor that creativity and wherever that leads. But our brains like to label. Our brains like to really kind of classify, well, you're this type of person, this is your color, this is what you like to do, this is your music, this is this, because it likes order. And when you start like going against that and like, well, I'm going to go to this painting class, instantly you're going to have that, well, it's going to look ridiculous, it's not going to look good, it's not going to be good enough, people are going to laugh at it, or whatever our brains. I love the mind, it's beautiful, but it's also kind of just a hot mess.
Right.
It's just a combination of things, of experiences and things that we have heard and things we have processed, because we have so much more information given to us now. And so our brains are trying to process it, and we see and hear things, and then it's, and so it's kind of, so I wanted something that kind of pushed people to go do something. Like,
right. It takes it out of, well, I ought to try this, to I get to try this.
Yeah, because we're reward-based society. If we get something free or discounted, we're more likely to try it.
Absolutely. And then we can go and we can meet people, and we can go peopling. And
right, exactly. Go and maybe we wanted to do rock climbing, but we thought we could never do it because we just this perception of who rock climbers and what they look like, and I don't look like a rock climber. But if we get a week free at a gym, I might go check it out and find out, maybe if I canceled, this subscription, maybe I could afford rock climbing and start making that a habit and a hobby, because I feel like we're so driven into, we're passion driven, but everything for our passion feels like it has to make us money.
Right.
So it's like, oh, this is your passion, so now you must generate revenue from it. And for sometimes that is the case, but it's kind of like with, MindStar, it's going to be free for users, and we have a healthcare marketplace. This is how we make revenue, so it can be free for users, is that healthcare professionals can advertise their services for a low monthly subscription.
Right.
And what makes it different is this listing is very much bare bones. Another reason why it's a low fee, but it has the important information. Obviously the specialty, the forms of contact, and then it has the forms of payment that are accepted, because not all insurance websites are updated and not everyone knows their coverage.
Right.
And that comes down to a lot of this that is built into this app is from my experience and from other people. My mother has an operable brain tumor, and seeing, what kind of app she would use as someone, in her 50s who's a little tech savvy but not that tech savvy. Could she use this app to help keep track of her medications and making sure she has movement? So that's one thing about this app, is really, I hope it helps build some self-awareness and some compassion, because we're so hard on ourselves.
Absolutely.
And this is why this app, you don't track calories. I don't care if you can put how much you've run, but I don't care about time. We don't care about times. It's literally, did you move today? Did you go out and do some movement? Did you get out of the house today? Even for some people, or have some major anxiety as far as like leaving the house, they could put, that, well, I went and got the mail today. For some people, that's a big thing. And there were times I was like that. So, it's a combination of, that. I have a son who's autistic, and thinking what that is like for him, and importance of self-care for him.
Did I put on deodorant today?
Right. And you can make it as specific as you want to, as generic as you want. And so it's designed for those that are busy and know the importance of self-care. They want to be able just to check in. Okay, I did these things for myself. Well, I did all these things for myself. Maybe my day wasn't so bad.
Right. Maybe I could do more.
Right, exactly.
I did all this and felt great today.
Right.
What happened if I add one more thing?
Right, exactly. And then, or for those who could put in there, just getting out of bed. And, and sometimes you have to go to the basics. And so when I was kind of burnt down and rebuilt, I had to go to the basics of, I got out of bed, I took my vitamins, I took a shower, I got my kids to school, I actually made it to work, and all these things. So that's the way it's essentially built. It's really simplified, because we want people to realize, because the biggest misconceptions of self-care is that it's for women, that it's expensive, it costs money, that it takes up too much time. And then another big one, is that the people feel like they don't feel like they deserve it. They have to do something in order to earn it. just being a human being and being a beautiful soul that they are, that they don't necessarily deserve it. They think, well, I have to get all these things off my list and then I'll do some self-care. When really you could implement some self-care techniques throughout your day. I tell my kids essentially that self-care is just kind of a hug to yourself, reminding yourself that you love yourself and that you matter.
Right.
Whatever that is, wear your favorite color, listen to your favorite song, I mean, just because, I am becoming kind of this self-care advocate, I still, I've had a crazy 2 weeks and I felt myself getting run down. I'm all like, you know what? I'm not practicing what I preach. And I need to reevaluate. And so when I do that, when I reevaluate, it's like I go back to the basics. Like, okay, let's go back to the very basics of making sure that I eat something healthy, make sure that I am getting plenty of water, making sure that I am going outside. Thankfully, it is getting warmer here, so
right, that helps.
That helps. But am I going outside? Am I having face-to-face connection with someone? Am I calling that friend I've been meaning to call or meaning to text that I haven't been able? I just say I've been too busy.
Right.
If I get off social media for 5 minutes, could I text them instead and work on that relationship instead of these kind of generic relationships of however many likes I get on social media, which is great, but we need to cultivate those more valuable, more personal relationships. Because, when something happens, your followers aren't going to be there to pick you up or, whatever it is. So you need to cultivate that and kind of honor those. So that's essentially kind of what MindStar is to hopefully build some awareness and some compassion and empathy because we are so hard on ourselves. Our brain is wired just with that negative bias, but that doesn't mean we have to let it run our life.
Right, absolutely. We get to decide how and when we're boss, and we get to decide what our choices are. And I love that you break down self-care as even as small as I got out to get the mail.
Oh, absolutely.
I got out of bed, because sometimes people think of self-care as so frivolous. It's like, right, I don't deserve it, but it's also like, mani-pedi. What is that going to get me? But it's not. If mani-pedis are your form of self-care that makes you feel good and happy, that's wonderful. It's not, in any way to take away from that. But sometimes those things are seen as frivolous.
Right. And I break down self-care into basically kind of the self-care wheel. And what I've done is break down to different components of self-care. So to me, there's 5. There is spiritual, there's practical, there's emotional, there's mental, and oh my gosh, does it say practical?
Physical?
Physical, thank you. Yeah, so physical, practical, emotional, mental, and spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I can kind of go over some of that. So practical would be like being a responsible adult, paying your bills, managing your finances.
Paying your bills is self-care.
It is, because you're taking care of yourself now and of your future. Because obviously if you don't pay those bills, then obviously you're going to go delinquency. It's going to hurt that credit score.
Right.
And that's
even more stress.
It's more stress.
And more anxiety.
Exactly. And I get it, because I have times I'm all like, I need to check the account right quick. And I can feel that anxiety building up because of, okay, this bill came out or whatever it may be. But like, okay, I'm taking care of myself because, I do have a family to help take care of. It's my husband and I and both our incomes. But still, it's like, okay, I'm going to be a good adult. I'm going to do my taxes. Right. I'm going to do things of this nature. I'm also, part of that is also time management. And this is why with my to-do list, I've started calling it a priority list.
Oh, I love it.
Because to-do list, it's like there's a million things I need to do.
Right.
But if I look at it and say, okay, what's my priority list? And when you put priority by it, it makes your brain think, is this a priority? Mm-hmm. And your brain will say immediately yes or no if you ask itself. It's so amazing sometimes if you quiet the mind and you just ask yourself something, you'll get the answer. You might not like the answer, but you'll get the answer of yes or no.
Right.
Is this a priority? Yes or no? And if I say yes, why? And I could talk about that too in a little later as a technique I've come up with that is I just call it the 5 whys. how you can get yourself kind of to the root of your limiting belief within asking your mind why.
Why?
Why?
Well, we might get to that
later,
maybe in another episode. But yeah, let's go over the rest of the five priorities.
Okay, so I did practical. So there's some examples of practical. Spiritual, not everybody is spiritual or not everyone is religious. I understand that. I'm talking more about connection. When I mentioned earlier,
yes.
I feel like no matter your belief, we all believe in the power of connection. Right?
Something that's beyond ourselves.
Right.
Some place where we plug in.
We we're not really feeling it, but we go have coffee with that friend after we feel so energized, right? Why didn't I do this coffee lit you sooner?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Christy. I just want to say that we here at Radiate Wellness hope you're enjoying this podcast. It's free to you, and we hope that you find it informative and inspirational. Heck, even fun. We have just 3 small asks of you to help us radiate growth. First, please hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening on. That way, you'll receive a notification every time that we have a new podcast episode out. Next, please give us a thumbs up, a like, or a 5-star review. If you're feeling inspired, a positive review wouldn't hurt. These 2 small things will help others find us when they're searching for great podcasts. Finally, please tell your friends about the Radiate Wellness podcast. Better yet, show them how to find us and how to subscribe. If everyone did that, we would double our audience. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate it.
So that's what I talk about with spirituality is no matter what your belief is, we all believe deep, the core of the importance of connection. And so I'm talking about a connection with yourself, whether that's also a connection with nature, a connection with friends. And with the connection with self is basically kind of knowing yourself a lot of times.
Sure.
We want to just kind of go along. Women are particularly bad at this, where, maybe we go somewhere, maybe we don't like that movie or don't like that show, but our partner or friend maybe really likes it. And so we watch it, and then we watch it over and over again, and we don't really speak and say, okay, we watched your show this time, now my turn, can we watch my show together? And kind of compromise. Instead, we end up watching this crime drama like 5 seasons in, and someone asks why you started watching it, because you hate crime and you hate murder and all, and you're like, well, I started watching it with so-and-so, and then it just kind of, because we wanted to kind of appease, and we didn't want to make kind of a scene about it, and really we could have said, all right, I don't really like shows, but I'll watch this with you, but maybe next time maybe we watch The Bachelor or whatever you want to watch.
That's my guilty pleasure.
Oh, it's mine too. And so
that's connection.
That's connection. Okay, so then we're going to go into the physical aspect. So the physical aspect of self-care isn't just eating healthy and working out. It's also the importance of sleep.
Oh, yeah.
There's a physical aspect of that, and just taking care of our body. So, yes, you could put skincare in there, but that's also just, physical fitness doesn't have to be, I kickbox, but it doesn't have to be this all-intensive thing. It could just be going for a walk, getting some fresh air, movement. Physical self-care essentially is just movement and nurturing the body that you have, with sleep, with water, things that we know that it needs. We're essentially plants with emotions. Yeah. So that's what we just need to do, is treat ourselves like a very nice plant. And then the next 2 are emotional and mental. So the mental aspect, and a lot of people, when I started thinking about this, how I could separate them, and mental is basically what we're doing to stimulate our mind and to be, we should be learners. Not everyone thinks they're learning, but we're constantly learning. We're always growing and learning, whether we realize it or not. We're picking up new things all the time. So that mental self-care might be maybe not binging Netflix, and maybe picking up that book. Maybe that book to learn. Maybe you've always wanted to crochet. And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to finally do this. That might be something. That's a good mental, and it's also good for your hands, too. And that's also great for anxiety, because you're taking yourself out of your mind, out of your head, and you're actually doing something with your hands and present in the moment. So the mental aspect is really honoring this beautiful brain and feeding it good things. You know, the affirmations and maybe doing some journaling, but also, again, just kind of cultivating this growth mindset. A lot of people have a fixed, but when you start working on yourself, you realize that, oh, really, I can do that. I really can paint. I really can take away those labels. So mental is more about kind of cultivating, getting those hobbies, and really the brain's a muscle. Working it a little bit.
Maybe like a book of Sudoku puzzles or crossword puzzles, something like that.
Absolutely. Or if it's an app, maybe it's Candy Crush or something like this. My mother, who has a brain tumor, has actually told that some of those games are actually good for her neurologically because it helps her matching and things of this nature.
Well, there's Elevate, which is it's like a puzzle-solving app that trains your mind.
Right. So it's that's part of that mental. And then it is the emotional self-care, which I feel like is one of the mental and the emotional. The other things are important, but if you don't really work on the emotional and the mental...
Well, we forget about those.
Right. I feel like there's such a taboo of talking about those. People are talking about it more, but yeah, we kind of just think about what's right in front of us. We don't think about what's in us.
Right.
And so it's literally kind of what's in front of us. Okay, well, this is good for me, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and this.
Well, especially as concerns self-care. We always think of it something as external.
Right.
To ourselves.
And really, there's so much there's internal work we need to be doing. Like I said, all this information that we're getting, we have to figure out a way to process it. Our brains don't know. I mean, if you think about the current world that we're in compared to 100 years ago, it's vastly different. Mm-hmm. And our minds are trying to catch up. It was, it's been evolving, but there's so much more being thrown at us now that affects us internally. Way back when we were just like, oh, there's a saber-toothed tiger. I don't want to be near them. I'm just going to run, or whatever it is, or I'm going to, obviously not do this or that, so I, hopefully don't get sick. But now it's like we get all this information. Those type of threats aren't there anymore.
Right.
Not like before. And so it's really interesting how the mind has evolved, but yet we still are lacking a lot of emotional intelligence for whatever reason. I feel like that is I know people talk about in the workplace now. It's incredibly important. So emotional self-care is actually tapping into that. I also think we're kind of afraid of ourselves a little bit. Like we're like the belief of I can't handle that. If I talk about that experience, I'm just going to relive it. Well, I'm someone, I can tell you, who has went through something terrible. My daughter, I took pictures of us whenever I was going through my darker moments, just anything to just get myself out of my head. And then for a long time, I was like, oh, that's that day you had a major panic attack. Like I associated.
Oh, wow.
The other day, so about 3 weeks ago, I was looking at those photos and I thought, look how beautiful we are. And it hit me, oh my gosh, I think I've fully healed from this. Because I didn't associate, oh, this is when you had that panic attack, or this is when you had those really dark thoughts. And you didn't know if you were going to make it through the day because your brain was lying, thinking you were just going to turn to dust or whatever ridiculous things my brain was telling myself. And it was all like, oh my gosh, how we're beautiful and strong, and look at us, I'm glowing. And I'm like, man, my skin looked good. And so, all these things. And I just realized, wow, okay, you know what? I've done all this work. And it's probably because I have shared my story, but it kind of come to full circle of wow, I think I am healed about this. So emotional self-care, some things we can do for that. Journaling is a big one. I call this the brain dump. Is just getting stuff out of your head and onto paper. Just getting out of your mind. It can be ridiculous. No one has to see it. And then I always tell people to just kind of rip it out and throw it away. Or burn it. If you especially don't want to see it. And just kind of make the kind of symbolic, okay, I'm taking all this junk out of my head and just getting it out. It's gone. It might be back again. I mean, I've written pages and pages. And that's fine. Because when you're trying to add new positive habits, like I said, that fear, because our brain likes repetition, it likes order, it likes pattern. If you disrupt that pattern, it's going to say, whoa, 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 what are you doing? You would do this. I was very guilty of retail therapy. So my husband would make me upset, and then I would go to my Amazon wish list and buy myself a shirt. Right. And when I became aware of that, it was like, okay, how can I rewire my brain to where I don't associate when he ticks me off? And I actually go deal with the issue, or maybe I take some quiet time to myself and then we deal the issue, so we're not in heated and then we say things we don't mean. And so I still have my Amazon wish list, but basically what I did is I basically took everything out of the account because I'm terrible of remembering passwords. So I basically got rid of on your phone where you can save your password,
Right.
deleted it. And then I deleted the Amazon app, and I deleted a couple other shopping apps.
Right.
And then when I would feel myself, I'm like, oh, I feel this urge. I need to go buy something. I need to go do something.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what if I go for a walk instead? Or what if I go journal instead? About what is frustrating me, because frustration is just unmet expectations. And so I'm like, what in this situation? Well, it's because I wanted him to say this and do this, and he didn't, and it made me mad, and so therefore I'm thinking.
Well, now in the app, is there a way to put in like what those usual, like maladaptive type of, self-care things are?
There is, but I'm still kind of navigating that, how to do that. But yes, I'm wanting that in there.
Right.
But yeah, it's
So
yeah.
we can catch ourselves when it's like mindfulness. It's really mindfulness.
It
So
is.
Like when you become aware that you've got these desires that might be maladaptive, that might not be in your best interest.
Right.
Before it gets full blown and fully
Right.
into it, then we can catch ourselves.
And then you have like 3 things from Amazon, you're just like, I probably should not, because then that falls into practical self-care with your finances.
Right.
And how they all affect each other, so kind of becoming aware. And I tell people when they really start looking at their self-care, I suggest to work on your emotional first and pick one thing that you're going to do,
Right.
because I have a lot of friends that will say, oh my gosh, I've got so much, they'll say, I've got so much baggage, I got so much crap I need to work on.
Right.
I'll say, pick one thing, pick one crap, pick one baggage. To work on, and see, just working on that emotional, how it affects all the other.
Absolutely. It affects the physical as well.
Exactly, because
Right.
then if you're not dealing, you're holding that emotion, that energy in your body.
Right.
So
and
then
it festers, it
festers.
grows.
And then you've got lower back pain, and all of a sudden your shoulders are hurting, and you've got
Yeah.
headaches. And we think, oh, well, I'm just going to take some medicine, and for it, which I agree to some degree, but what's happening in your world that's making that happen? Because the way our bodies respond, and we are energetic beings, and and kind of tapping into that, and so it's all connected. And so with emotional self-care, it's journaling. It is, I tell people to let themselves have a good cry.
Yeah, absolutely. Better out than in.
Yes, because there's a reason why it says have a good cry, is because our tears release different hormones.
Yeah.
And stuff when it comes to our emotions. So I have a cry playlist of about 3 songs, because I'm someone who
Perfect.
and what I do is I go to my car or my shower or whatever, and if I need to go cry, I will play that song, because as someone who as an empath, I can really, but a lot of us anyways, something about music and the therapy of that is great self-care. And so listening to that music and letting myself have that good cry for that 3 minutes and 53 seconds. And then
Yes.
taking a couple deep breaths, cleaning my face, and then going about my day, and I can feel so much better. It could just be, not that really things going on, but maybe we're just overwhelmed. We've got
Right.
so much going on, we're like, I just want to cry. And so I did that earlier this week because I had so much going on, as I was saying. I'm like, I'm just going to go have a good cry. And my family knows. So I'll go put my headphones in, I'll go to my room, and I'll let myself cry. I might do a little bit of journaling, and then take a couple deep breaths, and then I just instantly just feel relief. It's just releasing some of that pent-up emotions and hormones in my body, and just letting them go. So I tell people to do that. If you worried about crying, well, just get a really sappy song. Let yourself cry the whole song.
That is one of the best ideas I've heard in a long time. I'm going to go make myself a playlist.
Right. Now, I
Right?
said don't make it too long, because you don't want to
No.
get stuck in it. But, I have 3 of them.
songs. Oh,
I have 3 songs, because some of them might be, one's kind of gets me in the mood to cry, one really gets me cry, and then one kind of helps me kind of take myself kind of out of it, like, okay, and then I can kind of release and kind of replace it with some, positivity, like, what, I am resilient, I have got this.
Yes.
I need to relook at my priority list today, and what's stressing me out. Is it really a priority, or is someone else telling me it's a priority, but it's not to me? And so what I tell people what self-care is, the definition of self-care is essentially, it is an act that we do, it is an act or service that we do for ourselves, that we matter. It's an act of self-love. Essentially what it is that we're reminding ourselves that we matter. Because there's so much that, with people we compare ourselves, we kind of tell ourselves in little pieces that we don't matter.
Right.
Whenever we downplay something because we don't want to be seen as emotional, or we don't want to be seen as difficult, instead of just allowing ourselves. I recently had some big things with my company, were very exciting, and so my friends were like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm gonna go let myself feel everything."
Yes, I agree. That's very important, just to let ourselves feel the feels.
Right, and just like, okay, and they'll say, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just in my feels today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna give myself the day to be in it and honor it, because what we resist persists."
Yes.
So you might as well just embrace it. And what I tell people, I just said this yesterday,
Yes.
about uncertainty, especially when you're doing something big like this, or really anything, that is scary. Because going out and pursuing your passion or doing something like this, or for some people, just going to the grocery store, it can be very scary.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know what? There is some uncertainty there, but I'm going to make uncertainty my best friend, because it's always going to be here.
Yes. Do you know teacher Matt Kahn? He does these wonderful teachings on YouTube, and he talks about his big thing is whatever arises, love that.
Right.
Right? Hello, fear. Thank you for showing me where I need to be strong. Right?
Exactly. Like, okay, I see you.
Right.
And now we're going to just keep moving forward, because I get it for when I go on stage, or, whatever it may be. I let myself feel it, and I can feel it all in my body.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sweaty. All of a sudden, like, my legs are shaking. I'm like, okay, I'm going to let myself feel this. I see you. It's going to be okay. And then just kind of breathing through it. And there's so much power in the breath that people don't think about. So sometimes, self-care can literally be, okay, you've got your emails done. Before you go to your next task, take a minute to just do some mindful breathing.
Yes.
And just like, okay, you know what? I am a badass. I did knock out all those emails that I was kind of dreading. I didn't want to do, because it just seems kind of mundane, but I needed to do it. But you know what? I got that off my list. Okay, so now I can focus on whatever I need to focus on this time. Instead of, like, many of us, we have like 10 tabs open at once in our mind.
Oh my God,
And things we want to do, which is why I kind of came up with calling things a priority isn't nothing new. I mean, Mel Robbins uses that, but then I started calling it a priority list of things instead of to-do list. What's a priority list? Because then it made my brain shift and, okay, going on and doing that social media post because I feel like I have to post something.
Yeah.
Is that really a priority? Or should I really, go take those checks to the bank instead? Or, or do remote deposit? Or should I really go call my mother because I haven't talked to her for 3 days? Is that more important than a social media post? I think so. Because especially with social media, we feel this urge that we have to constantly keep content. And I'm all for putting content, but I want it to be authentic and genuine content instead of just, I have to post something just because I have to find something to post about.
And then your priorities can change at any time.
Absolutely.
Throughout the day, sometimes we need to check in with that.
Yeah.
Which is why I think the app can be very, very helpful, because it asks us to make ourselves one of those priorities.
Yes.
And we talked earlier about how you don't really have a launch date for this because it's kind of a moving target.
Right.
I know that some people watching this or listening to it may be thinking, I really need this. When can I get it? So it's kind of in beta testing right now?
Yeah, so we've been beta testing. What it is that we've uploaded to Apple. So when I've learned all about this now.
Right,
so
it's a whole learning curve, isn't it?
It has been. It has been, I designed the app, so they did, it's everything about it I actually did and designed myself at night. I had a 9-to-5 job at the time when I designed it, and I would design it at night with my kids around. Really soak up that love hormone, the cuddle hormone was really in me, and they are my inspiration. Behind MindStar, my son has a solar system in his in his bedroom, and I remember doing that and seeing that and then going to the living room to work, thinking, what's something that's universal, that's intriguing to everybody? Well, it's the universe, which is where I came up with Mind and Star.
Well, MindStar, but the gold star, kind of thought of, where's my star?
Yeah, exactly. Because eventually I was calling it Gold Star, and I'm like, I need to call
that's a military
connotation. Right. And I was just kind of like, no, I'm not really feeling that. And so I'm like, okay, Star. Okay, we're with Mind. Okay, but Mind Health. Essentially this is, an app that is, it is essentially for the mind. And so that's where I kind of came up with it.
And then you earn your own star.
Exactly, because,
I love it.
yeah, because, I mean, we get that little bit, boop, hey, it did something for myself, a little notification. It just kind of builds some instant kind of satisfaction of just like, oh, wow, I did do that. Hey, that's kind of cool, I got that. Well, now I want to do more because I want to hear that little ping, right. Go off. Because that's just how our brains are wired now. Whenever we hear something on our phone, we just instantly, well, what is this? But, we can do it ourselves and kind of just see, yeah, how much of ourselves we do need to make a priority. We really don't. We kind of give into this kind of martyr mentality.
Right. Oh, well, yeah, I used to be in corporate at Hallmark, and I remember that it was a badge of honor.
Yeah.
How late did you stay last night? Oh, I was here till 6. Oh, I was here until 8. Oh my gosh, you were working so hard. Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, no, right? Yeah, I mean,
I came in on the weekend. Wow, that's impressive,
Right.
So we prioritize that type of thing rather than, yeah, I took a shower today. I actually ate a healthy breakfast. And it's like, these are things that I did for me. Where's our reward?
Right.
So I love this app that does reward you. So you can earn things like discounts at fun experiences. You can earn services. You can earn appointments. You can earn, discounts at, I'm sure, restaurants and things like that. Painting experiences. I love that.
Yeah, the only thing that we're not allowing is anything. So, no discount at bars and or alcoholic stores. I don't really want. That's really the only thing.
That's a good idea.
It's just nothing like that. Now, obviously, if it's a bar and grill restaurant, then and it's a free appetizer or whatever. But yeah, nothing that's alcohol related.
Good idea.
I was a little mindful at first about something that's maybe towards sexual health. But sexual health is very important.
It is.
And it's also a very taboo subject. So we've actually opened, we don't have any companies, but we are open to companies who maybe it's a relationship coach or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's very important because, I'd like to kind of, again, with connection with ourselves, I kind of put that under spiritual because of this overall and the social aspect. I also put under spiritual because of connection, whether it's connection with our body and what feels good to our body and honoring that. And a lot of women are kind of shamed about that. Mm-hmm. And so there has been some discussion of that, but I've talked to friends of mine who are relationship coaches and thought that's an important part of self-care as well. So yeah, the only thing that we're not allowing is anything it's alcohol related.
Right. Probably not cigarette related or vaping related.
Exactly. Yeah,
that would be harmful.
Anything that could be harmful. The idea is to help people go out and try new things, and to go out and basically get out of the house and connect with people more and see what's out there for them. A lot of people don't realize all the resources out there that are free or for little to no cost that they can do. I was just told about a program that kind of certifies you in self-care, and it's free. And so I'm could definitely be looking into that and what all it entails. But yeah, there's so much information out there that can really help us. It's just kind of, again, getting out of our routine, because our brain's going to say, whoa, wait a minute. You used to sit here and binge Netflix for 3 hours every night. But now you've decided you're going to cut it down to 2 hours, and you're going to spend an hour reading and journaling. Like, you're going to feel ridiculous. You're going to, you're going to say all these things to yourself, and it's just kind of saying, okay, I see you and I hear you, but I'm still going to do this. I'm going to put fear in the back seat and doubt and uncertainty, and I'm the one operating. I'm the one driving. You're not, touching the radio. You're not messing with the windows. That's it. I'm pretty sure it was Elizabeth Gilbert that gave that analogy, which I loved it. So this is why I have that. I read it in one of her books. And so, kind of, we control whether we want to admit it or not. We control our lives. We control what we think. Sometimes we don't really control what we think, but we have our choice to how we identify what we think, and so that comes down to, I'm feeling this emotion. I am not this emotion. So I'm feeling anxious, but I'm not anxious. I'm not an anxious person. I'm feeling anxious.
Just change our language.
Right, and how we talk to ourselves. I'm feeling anxious. I'm not an anxious person. I'm just feeling anxious in this moment, And
Right.
it's just a moment. If you think about your overall life, this is just a tiny little blip on the radar. And so, yeah, because we get into this, unfortunately, especially with mental illness, it likes to tell you that you're alone and you're always going to be this way.
Right.
And so,
Right.
it sometimes it feels like you're kind of at war with yourself, but it's just kind of this tough love. It is tough love. It's like, you know what? It's basically like you're kind of grabbing your inner child, like, I love you, like, it's going to be okay. I
Yeah.
see you. I know that you're worried about XYZ, but we've got this.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing about, I'm taking a lot of this information that I have and people that I've talked to and people with different experiences, whether it's my own PTSD, my husband's PTSD in the military, my son being autistic, my mother and her condition,
Right.
and so taking different facets of their life and what kind of app they would need, incorporate that into the app.
Yes.
So it's not just something that that would work for me, but I also thought about these people in my life that have very different journeys that I just happen to be a part of, and how can we make something that is universal, which is why we walk around. That's why I say, it's called universal self-care for all minds is our mission statement, is because we believe that all minds deserve to shine. So when I go out and
Right.
speak, I take gender completely out of the equation. Yes, there's things statistically that women might do more than men, or vice versa, but I believe that with self-care and with the mind in general, we need to take it from the aspect of taking gender completely out of the equation, because we're all essentially the same mind.
Yeah, we are. They are. And so, again, the app is MindStar.
Yep.
And is it safe to say that it will be out within 2020?
Yeah, it'll be out in 2020. It should be out sometime this spring.
Wonderful. For Apple and Google.
Yes.
Or Apple and Android, I should say.
Yeah, for Android. I believe the Android is out now, if anyone has Android and wants to check it out. And then if they want to tell me if they find anything wrong with it, this really first year launching it in Kansas City is going to be getting it in the hands of college students. And then I also have several therapists who want to use it as a tool with their patients.
That would be wonderful.
So really, we're kind of testing two markets. Now, granted, it's for everyone, but we really kind of want to see how it does in these two markets. So, we're going to be the whole thing of patients and therapists using it and see if it's helpful with their patients, which I'm very excited, because I don't know over many self-care apps that do that. There are goal tracking apps out there, but as far as working with the mental health community, I don't really see any.
Right.
And so using that, and then working with college students to kind of just see, you're thinking of, when you're doing something, you have to think about your market. And you say everybody, but you really just can't go out and just put it to everybody.
Right.
So we wanted to test two markets to kind of see, as we go into 2021, where we can put our focus on, or later on this year. So I've been working with a couple of universities here in Kansas City, so that when it is both versions are launched, that students will be downloading it and basically kind of giving me kind of report, or giving the professor a report for me to use to get that feedback to what we can do to make it better.
Right. And
So
so the Android version is available now.
yes.
And so if anybody would download that would be greatly appreciated. Give it a positive review.
Right.
And if any feedback at all, just put that in the review.
Yeah, but then in the
That'd be
review, you're more than welcome also. So you can follow us on social media,
Right.
at MindStar app on Facebook and Instagram.
We can put that in the show notes.
Yeah, and so, you could also message us on Facebook and on Instagram if you see something as well.
Wonderful.
And just say, hey, I noticed this glitch, which I really appreciate. We're kind of going with the Facebook, early Facebook kind of mentality, is basically use it till you break it.
Yeah.
And so I want that for this first year. So when we can really work out all the bugs and really fine tune it and make it incredible, so then when 2021 comes around, by that point we've worked out most of the bugs. There's going to be bugs, but we've got it really, fine tuned to exactly what we want this to be, and it is smooth. The interface is easy to work with, and all this nature. And so then we start expanding outside the Midwest, because we want this to be national and eventually global.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
it's one of those things where, like I said, that slow burn, like I said in the beginning, is what we're wanting to do. And so, yeah, if anybody's willing to download it, test it out, and tell me what they love, what they don't like about it, and then why, that's incredibly helpful too, because that's
Incredibly
how
helpful.
that's how we make things better. So.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sitting down to talk with me today,
Thank you.
Kristen. I'd love to have you back on when this is up and running.
Yeah.
And, out on all platforms. So we'll visit again.
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Thank you.
you.
Radiate Wellness is a community of holistic and alternative healers and consultants based in the Kansas City area, dedicated to helping you create spiritual, energetic, and physical well-being. To learn more about our practitioners, services, classes, and events, or to schedule an appointment, visit us at radiatewellnesscommunity.com.